All right, so I'm going to add 18 ties to this wreath base, and to do the 18 ties, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to put 2 ties on each crossbar, so one in rows 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. But then on 2 and 3 in the middle of the section, I'm going to put a pipe cleaner as well. So normally when we do 18 ties, we either space them out so that there's 10 on the bottom and 8 on the top or something like that. But I'm going to do 6 on the top, 6 on the bottom, and 6 in the middle this time, and see how this design turns out with the kit that I am creating. So one of the reasons I'm doing that is because this kit has 2 rolls of mesh, so this should be a very, very full wreath. And I think that having the ties in the middle will help add to that fullness. So literally I'm just finding the middle part of the section and putting the twist tie there. I'm not exact in anything that I do. I figure that it all will kind of come out in the wash and it'll all look pretty symmetrical as far as the mesh placement goes with putting the mesh on the base. So I'm almost done adding my twist ties or my Chanel stems or my pipe cleaners or whatever you want to call them. And I'm really just putting them in, making sure they're approximately halfway through, and then I cross and twist twice. That's all I'm doing to secure the stem to the base. And again, I'm adding 18 to the base. So it's literally just cross, twist, twist. And then everything else that I add to the wreath will go in the ties themselves, whether it be the mesh or the ribbon. The sign won't go inside these ties. The sign will have its own ties that will attach to the base separately. All right, so I've got 3 more to go to add this on. All right, so again, I'm just adding them to the crossbars, and then I'm crossing and twisting twice. 1 on each crossbar, and then 1 in the middle of the section. So that gives me 6 on the top, 6 on the bottom, and 6 in the middle, which is a total of 18. All right, so now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the mesh that's going to go on the bottom. And the mesh that I want for the design that I'm going to create today that I would like to have on the bottom is the fabric mesh that came in the kit. So this is the pink and white stripe check fabric mesh, and I'm just going to take it and open it up, and this I'm going to cut into 10-inch strips, and then I will add them to each tie. I like to use the fabric mesh as part of the base because it has nice texture. I like the way that the fabric mesh feels because it is soft, but I also like it because it's fairly thick, right? So it's going to cover up the base itself. So I'm just going to add that here to my fancy Dollar Tree mesh roller that I created. I literally just took a basket and a plastic hanger and broke it in half, and then I just added it on. Okay, and I'm going to cut these first, and then I'll add them to the base. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do 10-inch strips on this one. All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, and I want to cut the whole roll. I want to end up with a total of 36 strips because I want to put 2 in each tie. Okay, so that was 3. This is not the most exciting part of the wreath making process, but has to be done. just going to try to keep the mesh on my desk the best I can. Some people will drop it on the floor. I feel like I seem to work in a creative place a lot of the times, or a chaotic creative place. So a lot of times I don't have things nicely tucked away. Just put it where I can reach it. My goal again is just to make sure that I have 10-inch strips, because I'm just going to make these real simple little curls. And I have no idea how many I have now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 12. 15, 16, 17. And again, 10 times, or 360 inches divided by 10 is 36. So I should just cut the whole roll and have exactly what it is that I need. So there's those. Alright, so I'm going to take what I have so far, and I'm just going to start to add them to the base, just so that I don't lose track of anything and have, for me, a lot of times they fall on the floor, because I do work in a chaotic workspace, and I don't want to lose them. Alright, so I'm just going to take these and I'm going to make them just little rolls. I don't want them to be too tight because I do want to be able to see the curl, but when I add them to the base, I'm going to put them seam side down. And I want them to be seam side down because I don't want, if any fray were to occur, I don't want that to be near the top of the wreath. All right, so I'm going to make sure that these two are seam side down together, and I'm just putting them together as a cross or an X. And then I am going to put them as close to the base as I can, pull them between my tie, pull tight, and then twist, twist. So the method to my madness is on all of my twist ties, I cross and then I twist and I twist. All right, so I'm just going to go through and do that to every single tie that I have on the base. I'm just going to make these little tiny curls. And then I'm just adding them to the base. So crossed, twist, twist. And I want to make sure that I can find these twist ties later. So I'm going to make sure that I pull them forward because I still need to add in the black and white mesh that goes with this kit. So I want to be able to make sure I can find those later. So I'm going to pull those to the top. So when I'm making the curl, I'm curling up between 3 and 4 times. I find that if I go more than 4, then it makes the curl too tight, and then it's not as full looking. And like I said, my goal is to make sure that this base looks like it's really full. So if I have looser curls or looser, yeah, I guess looser curls, then that's the way that they're going to look on the base as well, or in the finished product. All right, so I want to make sure that I keep them fairly full. So again, they're about the size of my finger to my middle finger. So that's about the diameter of how big my curls are. Again, trying to keep those twist ties where I can find them. Now the color of the twist tie won't matter because eventually it's all going to be covered up. But I did seem to choose one this time that matches very well with the hot pink and the fabric mesh. So for these I have to really make sure that I know where those twist ties are at, because otherwise I run the risk of tying them into the next bundle. So in my opinion, adding the mesh is not the most exciting part of making a wreath. It's the work part, right? They call this a work wreath or work base, and that's because it takes work to put the mesh onto the base. It's not really the fun designing part of it, of wreath making, in my opinion. Pulling those ties out of the way so I don't include them in my next bundle. Try to twist them in. There we are. We're trying to have a skeep ribbon right there. Escaping mesh. All right, so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, through this whole process, I have tried to keep my cut side down so that the fraying that's occurring is not as noticeable. And there is fraying. Right, that's what happens with mesh. Fabric mesh definitely seems to fray. It doesn't have as much plastic in it. It has more of those cotton fibers in it. When I make a design, I like to use an entire roll of mesh so that I don't end up with any leftovers, which is why I chose to go with the method that I'd like here. I want to have 2 different color of mesh in my wreath, but I don't want to have any leftovers. So I'm going to use both rolls entirely. And so again, what I did is I thought, okay, well, I've got 18 ties, so I'm going to start off with curls. And so 18 or 360, which is 10 yards, or however many feet that is, because my brain doesn't work that way. but 360, 10 yards is 360 inches. So, and then 36 divided by 18 is, or 360 divided by 18 is 10. So that's where I came up with, or 20. That's where I came up with my concept here. I don't know. My math is not, the math is not strong with me. I truly am a creative at heart. I actually have a little cheat sheet, a little notebook here that tells me how many inches or how many yards. There's 10 yards equals 30 feet equals 360 inches, and then 360 inches divided by how many pieces I want tells me my formula. So I already figured out the formula once. So now I just go back to my little quick reference to remind me of what I'm going to get out of each roll, depending on how far I cut it, because literally the math is not strong with this one. I am very much a creative in that regard. We actually have a joke amongst my friends that we have holly math, because most of the time my math doesn't make sense and it's wrong. So it's kind of a joke. Especially when it's way off. When I think that something has come, it should be right, and I'm like, no, this is right. And they're like, no, let us show you the way. I'm like, oh yes, okay, so yeah. They're like, oh, you've been doing holly math again? I have been doing holly math again. And then sometimes I outmath them, and then they're very surprised. I'm like, For some reason, my brain just worked on that holly math, and that was the right holly math. Now, as I start to get towards the bottom of my roll, my mesh is going to try to curl all by itself. And so I'm just going to let that natural curl do its thing. I'm going to let the mesh work for me in that regard, and I'm going to let it kind of curl at its own diameter. I'm not going to have to work it as much as I did the beginning of the roll, because the beginning of the roll doesn't have any curl at all. So as you can see, these really are trying to curl on their own, and I'm just going to let them go at the diameter that they really want to, which still ends up giving me the same diameter that I was looking for. So that's just a quick tip. The other thing is now I can lay it down and it'll stay in its form, pretty much. Alright, so I've got 2 more left of this mesh, and then I will move on to the metallic border stripe. And the metallic border stripe, I'm going to do a different cut on the mesh. Because for that one, I do want to have 18 pieces, which will be 20-inch cuts. Oh no, I missed one right there. Oh. Okay. I guess I have 6 more cuts to make. So there's 4. And again, it's one of the things I like about the middle part of the end of the roll is that it already curls. Keeps a nice shape. So I'm going to put this in that one that tried to escape earlier. And now I have, oh no, see, oh my gosh. I keep finding additional ties. So I had one over here as well. Okay, I'm going to turn it over, make sure I have them all, and I literally only have 2 left. And I literally only have 2 left. Okay, so I'm going to make 4 more cuts. And I'm going to have just enough mesh to do that. Just perfect. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, again, making sure that those cut sides are down. And then my last 2. Okay, so now looking at this and this great base with all of the curls, it's a very full looking wreath. But because I have the stripes in my sign, I want to also use the metallic border mesh to put that in here. So I want to pull those stripes in, and that'll also help fill in any openings that I have. Like, so here's an opening, and here's an opening. And so adding in that second roll of mesh will help hide some of that. So I'm going to open that roll. And I'm going to cut this metallic border mesh at 20-inch strips. I'm also going to add it to my fancy Dollar Tree mesh roller. Alright, and for this I am going to use something to weigh it down. So I'm just going to use one of my ribbon tail holders to kind of hold it down for me. And I see that I have a little piece hanging off there. Okay, so I'm going to cut these at approximately 20 inches. And I'm just going to do them one at a time. So for this one, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to take my clothespin and I'm going to clip it. And I'll go to the other side and do 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to bring these together and then add them to my tie. And I'm not worrying about the fray because I've put all of my frayed ends on the inside of my mesh curl or my fold. I have a cat who's come to assist, so you may see Ranger shortly. Currently has the spot that he likes to lay on covered up in front of my desk. So we'll see how he fares. He might come in. He's here to help. So this is Ranger. Ranger, go see Dad. Go see Dad. Yeah. Hi. Okay, so you're feeling very needy. You got your big motor on? Okay, so should I pause recording? Okay, I'm going to have to pause recording because you require attention. Okay. I'll be right back, you guys.